So they can't come out and say, we don't want to drill. So they've taken fracking because people don't understand it. And of course, it sounds bad because it sounds like a word we shouldn't be saying. And they've taken that and totally kind of upended it and made it seem like a negative to people in their mind. And that's why it's threatening this entire renewable energy paradigm. And if I can throw in one more thing, Terry, as you're smiling at me over there, ask someone when they're supporting green energy and you say, why do we need wind and solar? I guarantee you that one of the answers you will get from people is, well, we need to get off of Middle Eastern oil. Well, think about it for a moment. How does wind and solar get us off of Middle Eastern oil? Wind and solar produce electricity. Middle Eastern oil is a transportation fuel. In this country, less than 1% of our electricity is generated from oil. So there's a total disconnect there that somehow wind and solar are going to help us get off Middle Eastern oil. No.
Interesting.
There's no connection to those two concepts whatsoever. The percentage of electricity in this country that is generated by oil is so minuscule it's not even worth discussing.
I just actually was smiling because I saw a post in regards to your appearance, and she says, ask her to make a podcast of it so I can listen online later. I like listening to learn how to say it in words other than drill, baby, drill. So when you popped up with that, I thought, well, that's fortuitous.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, Michael, any other questions for Marita this morning?
No, very enlightening. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
I would like to address the Keystone Pipeline, too, before we run out of time as we're, approaching our last couple segments.
Want to do it now, and then we'll get to Rob and David in our next segment.
Sure.
We've got about 2-3 minutes right now.
Okay, well, one of the things, I do a lot of speaking on energy issues around town. In fact, I'm going to be speaking for the Placitas Federated Republican Women on November 12th, and I will be in Santa Fe for the Capitalist Forum, also on November 12th. Placitas is lunch, Santa Fe is an evening event. But I do a lot of speaking around all over the country on energy issues, and one of the things people always ask is, are we ever going to get the Keystone Pipeline approved? And Michael brought up the pipeline, and there's a lot of things we could say about it, but I want to address the political angle of it. If you follow what President Obama does closely, as I do, specifically on energy issues and green energy, you see that he has kind of a standard mode of operation on all policies, not just energy, but that mode of operation is reward your friends, punish your enemies. Okay, if you can accept that's a mode of operation, and then now think Keystone Pipeline. President Obama has made it very clear that he only really cares about his base, his constituency. He does not care, certainly, about Republicans. He does not care about the energy industry as a whole. He only cares about his base. Okay, so think this through. Of his base, there are only two constituencies who care about the Keystone Pipeline. They are the unions and the environmentalists. Now think about for a moment, who's done something for him or against him lately? The unions have come out loudly against Obama's signature policy, Obamacare. So you don't really need to know any more than that basic idea. Is Obama going to ever approve the Keystone Pipeline? I don't think so. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think so, because he's going to punish the unions for coming out against his signature policy, Obamacare.
Well, a few years from now,
I hope I'm wrong. And I don't like to be wrong.
I don't get the impression you are, though, really.
Yeah, no, I don't. Obviously, if I thought I was wrong, I wouldn't make a bold statement about it.
Well, that's a good point, too. Talking energy this morning with Marita Noon. And we've got, the lines are full, as a matter of fact, so we're going to do our best to get all through your calls. And so if you can make them fairly brief, that would help us. And Rob, we appreciate your patience. Thanks so much for holding your on with Marita Noon. Go ahead.
Good morning to you all.
Morning.
I was going to ask you a question. I live up here in the East Mountains, too, and not to get off the oil subject but do you get into any representation of the Acequia water rights? And another question is, another thing to throw into the fracking part of it is, I've been up here 40 years, and I've actually seen a gentleman take a stick of dynamite and take it down 600 feet and blow off that stick of dynamite to frack his water well. So I know the fracking works on the oil part of it, but my other question was if you do any representation for the water rights for the acequias up here on the East Mountains.
Not at all on the water. Sorry about that. I'm an East Mountain resident as well, and my water comes in a truck. But no, I have no expertise on that area at all.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you hanging in for me to tell you. Sorry, I can't help you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
you, Rob. Have a great day. And let's see here. How about David? David, good morning and welcome to 770 KKOB. You're on with Marita. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Good morning.
Morning.
Hi, Marita.
Hi.
Hey, a few months ago, I brought up the theory of abiotic petroleum with you on the Eric Strauss show.
Yes.
It's that theory that's been around for almost 100 years. I looked it up on Wikipedia, and the theory says that petroleum does not come from ancient biomass, ancient dinosaurs and plants, but it comes from the Earth's surface at the margin of the core and the mantle, where hydrogen and carbon are just forced together. And I was wondering, have you heard this theory from anybody else but me?
Oh yes, I most definitely have. Yes,
Okay.
I mean there's a lot of questioning now because of all of the new abundance, as I've mentioned many times, that has become available. There's been a lot of questioning about, well, really where maybe oil isn't a finite resource because it seems to be continually creating itself, and we seem to be finding more of it. And there is a disagreement within the geological community about that. And I personally, I couldn't tell you one way or the other. I'm not the geologist. I'm the communications person. But there's definitely, talk of that. And people with a lot of expertise are coming to similar conclusions that oil is perhaps not a finite resource. And it makes sense. But the difference would be, I believe, is that, while the Earth is continually growing and evolving and there is matter that is decaying, that, it didn't just decay millions of years ago. It's been decaying ever since. And so it seems reasonable that more would be being developed deep under the earth. The question or the concern is that we are using it up more rapidly at this point than it is being recreated. And that's kind of where the concern is. However, the best experts in the field, and especially when you add oil, natural gas, coal, and uranium, we have enough energy reserves within our shores in America to fuel us for several hundred years to come at this point. And if this idea of the oil continually recreating itself deep within the earth is real, then obviously we'd have enough for supply for many hundreds of years. So it's definitely something worth looking into, and it's a possibility.
Right. It seems common sense would tell you, like you just said, common sense would tell you that there's just too much oil to be accounted for by dead dinosaurs and plants. I mean, how much oil can you get out of one dinosaur? Maybe a quart. So.
Well, I've never met a dinosaur, so I couldn't really tell you that. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely conceptually seems feasible, especially when we keep having these new discoveries. And a lot of it's not so much new discoveries, but new technology. For example, they've known for years that there's oil and natural gas in these so-called shales. But trying to have the technology to find that, to get at it, is what was the challenge. And that's what I mentioned earlier, that George Mitchell spent 20 years of his life dedicated to, trying to get the right mix of horizontal drilling and hydraulic fracturing to crack those rocks. And that would be what's called an unconventional play. What they call the conventional oils would be kind of what we think of when we think of Jed Clampett and the Beverly Hillbillies, where he went out to shoot some dinner and the bullet went into the ground and up from the ground came the bug. bubbling crude. Well, it was never that easy, really. But the idea is that, it was a lot easier in the past. And so what we're getting now are what they call the unconventional plays, where it's a lot harder rock and therefore also more expensive to get out. But the high price of oil overall has allowed us to extract to invest in the technology and so forth to find those unconventional plays. So we do keep finding more and more, and it may be reproducing underground. It's not been proven one way or the other yet.
We can but hope.
Great. Thanks a lot.
My pleasure. Good to talk to you.
Thanks, David. Jerry, welcome to 770 KKOB. You're on with Marita Noon. Go ahead. Hi, Jerry. You with us?
Jerry?
Jerry?
Oh, okay.
Hi.
Marita and Terry.
Hi.
I was just wondering if Marita has heard or read anything about the Siemens mobile unit that's about the size of a, a 53-foot tractor trailer. And
you talking the water reprocessing?
Well, the reprocessing the fracking fluid.
Yeah.
That would take a little bit of the wind out of the sails of the detractors.
Well, there's several. In fact, I may write a column on this. I've got the information kind of sitting on my desk. I was at a conference in Midland, Texas a few weeks ago, the Executive Oil and Gas Conference, and they had a whole panel at that conference, and I've got the recording of that panel available to me to do a column out of. And they're talking, each person on that panel represented a company that's doing this water reclamation. And what most people don't realize is several things, and I'm sure this is more or less what you're talking about. I may not be familiar specifically with the Siemens one, but I know that this exists. I know what you're talking about is accurate. And that, first off, when they talk about all the water that's used in fracking, and this is in my column I mentioned to Michael, who called in. Mm-hmm. I talk about this in my column a couple weeks ago, and I can't remember the name of it, but you could figure it out.
And we would find that
townhall.com. Just Google my name, Marita Noon, townhall.com. You'll find the list of all my columns. But in that, I talk about that one of the things that people don't realize is, first off, the technology has advanced to the place where fresh water is often no longer used in fracking. Depends on what the water resource is. Like in southeastern New Mexico, we have a lot of brackish water, and that water is used in fracking. And so we're not impacting the fresh water supply. We're not taking water out of the fresh water supply. Additionally, when they frack it with that, they then bring it back up, clean it, and reuse it. And they do this over and over. And there are now technologies that are available that are and have been used in Colorado, where they can take the brackish water, use it, and when they're done, clean it so it's so clean they can put it in the river.
Wow.
I mean, that it's cleaner. They take away, so they're actually adding water into the hydro cycle.
Pretty cool. And no, I don't think a lot of people are aware of that by any means.
No, it's amazing, the technology and the advancements that are being made.
Mm-hmm. Peter, thanks for joining us on KKOB. You're on with Marita.
Well, I just wanted to ask a quick question, given on how it is that all the various different claims about open land couldn't be accessed and all this other stuff. What's going on with the tribes?
What specifically are you asking about what's going on with the tribes?
Well, out on I-40, out on some of the Laguna property, I've noticed that there's a rig out there right now. There's also discussion about various different natural gas drillings out on the Jicarilla, again, areas out near Counselors and up further north toward Farmington and Blanco, which are new exploratory wells. At least that's some of the things that I've been hearing that are out there on, say, Navajo or Laguna or Acoma or the like.
I think we'd have to have perhaps some Native American listeners call in, but it's my understanding, and I could be wrong on this, it's honestly not my expertise, that it's up to, they control their lands, and if some of them want the economic development that comes along with the drilling, allow that, and there are others who are opposed to it. I recall back, I cut my teeth in this industry fighting for we lost this battle, but fighting for uranium mining in New Mexico. And at the time, I recall that one of the tribes, and it might have been Navajo, I don't recall who it was, I could find this, but basically threw the Sierra Club off their lands and said, basically, you all have deceived us. You all have told us this, this, and this, and we don't want anything to do with you. So, it's my understanding that whether there's drilling on their property or not is up to the tribe's decision, and they make different decisions.
Thanks, Peter. Appreciate your question today. And Sam, we'll see if we can squeeze you in. Good morning. You're on with Marita on 770. Go ahead.
This is Sam.
Hi, Sam. Go ahead.
Real quick, 3 points. I don't understand. The powers that be can easily see that the terrorists aren't dumb and that they are all the time looking at disabling the Suez Canal, and if we get that disabled, we're in a bind. But if we had stuff in line already working as far as natural resources, we wouldn't be that way. And for the last 40 years, experts have said we had what somebody's mentioned already. We've got stuff, resources in our continental U.S. that we could put those Arabs out of business. And the second point...
I'll just say amen to your first point.
Beg your pardon?
I'll just say amen to your first point.
Well, in the 1960s and 70s, some of the major oil companies and some of the wildcatters, I don't know if people know what that is. A wildcatter is one that finds oil and then, it's too big of a deal. After they spend the money and find it, then they can sell out that well to a big company that can handle it. But anyway, in the 1960s and 70s, along the Rio Puerco, for those unknown geology and geography, the valley immediately west of us is the Rio Puerco, and from Sandoval County all the way down past Belen in the 60s and 70s and even 80s, there were oil companies drilling. Now, some of them were wildcatters, but some of them were major oil companies. Now, they're not going to put out $500,000 to $1 million a well if they didn't think there was something there. And this didn't just happen once or twice. There was drilling going on all along the Rio Puerco for a decade. So the third point is, in the 1970s, Paul Harvey said that we have enough coal, just coal, inside our continental U.S. to last us for the next 200 years. And the technology is getting better and better to use coal. But I don't understand some of these points that the so-called experts ignore, and when we get cut off with the Suez, we're not ready, and we could be ready. But I've said my piece.
Thank you, Sam. It was a great call. What do you say in the minute that we have?
Once again, amen. I mean, Sam is right on all fronts. We have, obviously, an abundance of coal that we should be using, and we're using it cleaner and more safely and everything all the time.
And just a thought to leave us with, a drive-by caller said Washington will not approve Indian land or Native American land drilling permits. So that I don't know if that's the case or not. I haven't done any research on it myself.
I might do some research on it.
Well, there you go.
But I mean, I do know I know on Native American land they can mine coal, where on non-tribal lands it's very difficult to get a coal mining permit. So I mean, I know there are some favorable things for mining on mining coal on Native American lands. But let me also mention, Sam was correct in that there is resource here in the Rio Grande Valley.
Wouldn't that be something?
There is resource here.
Thank you so much for coming in today. It's always a pleasure. Your websites?
EnergyMakesAmericaGreat.org is my organization's website.
Okay.
Facebook, Energy Rabbit. Twitter, Energy Rabbit. And my columns are found first at townhall.com.
Fantastic. You take good care and come in and see us soon. Let's not wait a year. I
know,
don't
it's
know what.
too long.
Yeah, it was.